I just watched the clip of the Sonya Massey incident. It reminds me when I called the cops on a relative. I'm not going to say who. He was in emotional distress. But the thing is, the 2 times I've called, I clearly stated I want an ambulance because he had mental illness. He didn't have no weapon. He was just flinging stuff in my apartment. He just had a rage, but not to the point where it was to the point where I couldn't handle it. Because if you're throwing stuff at me, I'm skinny. I'm not much of a fighter. And the thing is, I know if I feel threatened, I'm quick to go pick up a knife and whatnot. So I didn't want it to go that way. So I was like, look, call 911, please because in New York, they have the option now that when you call 911, it's supposed to say, do you need the ambulance or do you need police officers? I say the paramedics, but police officers still find their way here. I will say during the 2 times they've been in my home, thank God it never really went that far. Well, the last one could have went left. So we're in July. I would say May. I had to remove a knife from that individual. And I'm glad I did because that individual kept saying, yeah, if the police come up in here, I'm going to fight because they're not taking me down. You're going to have a dead relative. And I'm sitting there thinking like, let me move all the sharps so that if the police do come and whatnot, because if they see something in your hand that's a threat, they're going to use their guns. But luckily, they drew out their taser. So yeah, that was okay. But moving forward, I won't be calling 911 because after they were able to de-escalate the situation, thank God, I felt like that could have ended badly because that family member was in distress. They were just flinging stuff in my apartment. It was hard to keep them calm. And then when you're not in that state of mind, you do all types of behaviors to the point where you're not thinking, gosh, that could cost me my life. Because mind you, they're still learning how to deal with people that are mentally ill. I found out that there was a guy, he was older, he was mentally ill. He took the cop's gun and shot both of the cops. So again, people that are mentally ill, and I get it. Sonya, I feel like the pot wasn't a threat, but then again, when you watch the video, you could tell when they came to the door, he's like, well, you called us. She's like, she don't know. You could tell she wasn't right there mentally. So what they should have did was probably put her in the cop car and take her to the psych ward, or be like, look, this woman needs medical attention, or backed off. Because if she wanted to throw the pot of hot water, she would have been doing it. When you're mentally ill, you're not sitting there thinking, you gonna act. It's very unfortunate, but my advice to families that know that their loved one have mental issues, because some of them know, it's in your best interest to keep an eye on them or take them to the psych ward. I would not call police or leave them unattended. Then again, with an adult versus a child, it's harder. Mine I could drag to the psych ward up the block. Or we going in an Uber and you're going there. But other than that, but because so many people have been killed at this point, God forbid that that family member has an outburst, I think I'll just either handle it or look, my house is just gonna have to be teared up, because I don't want to, God forbid, it end tragically because I'm calling for help and boom, you drawing out your guns when clearly there's no weapon in my house. That person is not a threat, except their mind is not all the way up there. Yes, but you could clearly see in the video, Sonya, she has mental illness. And I feel like they should have called paramedics to come transport her to the psych ward. But yeah, I don't really call 911 for everything. I have cameras where I live at, so sometimes if something happens like a shooting in my neighborhood, police will come and knock and want to ask to see the camera footage. I don't answer the door because I'm not volunteering no information. The only time I feel compelled to talk to the cops is if there's a kidnapping or, God forbid, an innocent person gets killed. Because, God forbid, if something happens to me, best to believe I'm going to want somebody to solve my case. But other than that, I don't interact with them. I don't know. I don't volunteer information. I don't know. Because at the end of the day, their job is to kill. Because although, yes, they signed up to be a cop, they want to go home to their families. So they're going to make sure they protect themselves. So yeah, I don't. But I know not to call them. Because they don't listen when I say I want paramedics and you send in 4 cop cars here. What do you send in 4 cop cars here? First of all, I didn't tell you that they're wielding a knife. I didn't tell you that the person was hitting me. What you sending 4 cop cars here for? So yeah, that's yeah, but that's that. But it's very sad. And the other sad part is I noticed that people with mental illness, well, New York I can speak for. I can't speak for many states. I know New York on the mental health hospitals could only hold them for 72 hours and then they just let them loose. And it's like, any person that's deranged or has prior history of assaulting people, you need to be in a mental facility for a while. That's no 72 hours. No. Or in some drug program that's mandated by the court. Because what I'm seeing too is a lot of them mentally deranged people, they do kill. Let's not sit here and act like, oh, they have mental illness, they won't cause no harm. Half of the time they're deranged. I would know because, again, I've dealt with them in my family for instincts. I almost could have been murdered, me and my child. I went to go visit my mother for Mother's Day, which a day I do not celebrate, a day I do not like. But because she got in a car accident, I decided to take the initiative to go to Georgia just for a day. My half brother thought it was okay to get into an argument with his sister. Their fighting ends up becoming physical. I take out my pepper spray. I had to pepper spray him because he's fighting us in the house and my half sister's boyfriend. And then my child is watching. So in my mind, I'm thinking, look, it's either him or all of us. I took out that pepper spray. He ran out the house. So again, we're not going to sit here and act like mentally ill people are harmless. Sometimes they are harmful to those around them and in the community. So sometimes you do have to act and you do have to be like, hey, you're mentally ill. You need to be in an institution or you have to stay far from me unless you're taking your meds because you can't be here. So in a sense, I get why the police would react. But my thing is, if you don't see a weapon or whatnot, and even if they hit you and whatnot, you need to be able to slam them to the floor or handle that situation. I don't think you should result in killing, but again, like I said, you have to use your discernment because my half brother could have killed all of us in the house, mind you, and he's under the influence of drugs. So, and then police came like 2-3 hours later. I'm like, well, you're kind of late now. So yeah, I get it. Dealing with somebody that has mental illness, severe, I should say, because majority of people have mental illness, but you have cases where they're severe, and then there's like mild, and then there's people cannot be off their medication, and there's people like me that don't really need to take medication unless I need it, that are productive citizens. But then you have those that is like, yeah, we need to watch, we need to stay away from that one. Yeah, that person needs to be institutionalized. So, but I feel like every state needs to have someone that when the police are called for somebody in distress, they need to have a social worker or medical personnel on site so that they can calm down the person and escort that person safely in an ambulance. They should not be leaving in a body bag because of boiling water. I didn't like that the cop called her a bitch. You done killed the woman and then you called her a bi. Ooh, I was about to curse. I didn't like that. That was very disturbing. But again, we already know that the cops, their goal is to kill and get home to their families. So sometimes it's to protect and serve. But at this point in age, these cops are just trying to survive. So if they have to kill as many people that they view as a threat, that's what they're going to do. That's why I do not call 911. I'm not saying we don't need cops, because we do. But it's like, at this point, you have to use your discernment. Because it's like, that could end left. So I'd rather not deal with all of that. Then they take, and then depending on the neighborhood you live in, they take their sweet time coming. So it's like, for all of that, God forbid, if I call for a burglar in my home, I just die. I die in my home until somebody calls me. That's the mindset that I'm on, because again, you're calling for help and then I die. That don't make me feel safe at all. It does not. I remember my friend got into a domestic situation. I didn't call 911. She told me to call 911. I was like, nope. But he needs to leave. And he left. I tried to limit the police interactions. I've never been arrested. I don't want to be. I don't like seeing them, because now instead of them sending 1 or 2, they send like 4 or 6 men. That's crazy. You would think that I was armed, or they're trying to catch a fugitive. Like, you really need to send 6 people to my house? Unnecessary. But feel free to comment. But yeah, we have a long road ahead of us. Their first step would be to have social workers on site for people that have mental illness. Not be sending cops unless they have a weapon in their hand. They have a weapon in their hand, then send cops. Because again, when people have mental illness, they have a weapon, man, they are going to kill you. They could hurt you. You don't want that. But if they're talking to themselves, they're in distress, they're crying, they're having little outbursts, you don't need cops for that. You need a social worker. If the cops come, the social worker should be de-escalating the situation, and then the person needs to go in the ambulance, not a cop car, ambulance. So when you all are voting in November, that's all the stuff that you all need to take in consideration. How your state and city is spending their money, because mental health needs more resources and help. They need more facilities. We'll start there. Thanks for watching.